Have you ever agreed to pet sit or house sit for someone? Sounds simple enough. But sometimes, behind a quiet home or an adorable dog, there's a nightmare waiting to unfold. In today's video, you'll step into the world of 3 terrifying pet-sitting stories, real experiences shared by people who once believed it would be just another ordinary night. But then came the sound of a baby crying in the basement when no baby was ever born there. A stranger silently broke into the house and just stood watching from the dark. Or a parrot that wouldn't stop repeating, "Daddy's home," even though the owner was hundreds of miles away. No cameras, no alarms, no one to call when the door shuts behind you. The only thing left is your survival instinct and the fear that grows louder by the minute. If you ever thought pet sitting or house sitting was an easy gig, get ready. Because after this video, you'll never look at a simple favor the same way again. 3 stories, 3 haunting twists, and it's only just begun. It was supposed to be just another simple house-sitting job, like every other year. Nothing but a quiet house, 4 well-behaved cats, and a rare period away from family chaos. But that year, a young college student, let's call her Amy, had no idea the homeowner's vacation would become the worst nightmare of her life. The house, built in the previous century, sat tucked away in a peaceful residential neighborhood. It had been recently renovated, but no fresh coat of paint could mask the creeping chill embedded in its walls. For Amy, this place was a safe zone, an escape from parents who constantly fought, and the growing loneliness after her only sister moved out. Each year, Amy looked forward to pet sitting as a way to breathe, to get away, to be alone with the cats, and away from everything else. That evening, Amy's boyfriend Kyle came over for dinner. They watched a movie in the living room, trying to carve out a moment of peace. But Kyle couldn't relax. His eyes kept scanning the corners of the house like he was expecting to see something. "I've got a really bad feeling," he said, as he stood to leave. "We should go tonight." Amy chuckled softly, brushing off his anxiety. She reassured him with all the logical reasons: a modern alarm system, a safe neighborhood, and 4 cats as company. But as Kyle walked out the door, he paused and turned back to her, his eyes full of concern, as if he knew something was about to happen. And just minutes after the door closed behind him, the silence began to crack. Right after Kyle left, Amy locked all the doors, activated the alarm system, and climbed into the guest bedroom bed. She turned on the TV to fill the emptiness, but just a few minutes later, it turned off by itself. Amy frowned, then switched it back on. Before she could feel at ease, the screen flickered and switched to a black and white static channel. Loud, crackling noise filled the night air. She picked up the remote and turned it off again. But just seconds later, it powered back on for the 3rd time. The screen was still static, and the sound was eerily distant, like it was echoing from somewhere far away. Not of this time. Fear began to rise in her throat. Amy unplugged the TV and quietly moved to the sofa in the living room to sleep instead. The next morning, Kyle came back. He frowned when Amy told him about the strange incident with the TV, but they quickly brushed it off when Amy revealed that the house always made her feel like someone was watching her from behind. That evening, they had an early dinner and settled down to watch a movie in the living room. Everything seemed normal, until a sound froze Amy's blood, a cry. Not a cat meowing, not a radio, but a shrill, weak, high-pitched sound, like that of an infant. Kyle turned to Amy, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Amy nodded, her throat tight. She immediately stood up and counted the cats in the room. Only 3. The smallest one, Whiskers, was missing. She rushed to the basement. The basement had been remodeled into a common room, but the old staircase remained, creaking ominously with each step. When she reached the bottom, Amy turned on the light and called the cat's name. The crying sound was still there, fainter now, coming from the storage room, the one the homeowners used for random belongings. The door was ajar. She pushed it open and saw Whiskers trapped inside, eyes wide in terror. Amy scooped the cat up, soothing him. But the crying had stopped abruptly, like someone had flipped a switch. Back in the living room, Amy found Kyle standing among the 4 cats, all of them staring intently down the basement stairs, as if they had just seen something that didn't belong to this world. On the 3rd night, Amy couldn't focus on movies or studying. Her eyes stayed locked on the staircase leading to the basement, the place where that strange sound had echoed. Kyle had gone home earlier that day, saying the atmosphere in the house felt wrong. Left alone, Amy locked the doors, drew the curtains, and double-checked the alarm system. She decided to sleep in the living room, next to the cats, the safest feeling she could find. But then, the crying came back. This time, it wasn't the sound of a baby. It was soft sobbing, like an adult trying to hold back tears, and failing. Amy sat bolt upright, her heart pounding. She counted the cats. All 4 were there, lying calmly in the living room. So, who was crying in the basement? She didn't call 911. She didn't know why. Maybe instinct. Or maybe because she didn't trust herself. Or perhaps she feared that if she called the police and they found nothing, they'd think she was imagining things. She tried turning on the basement lights from upstairs, but they wouldn't switch on. Darkness clung thick to the stairway. With trembling hands, she grabbed a flashlight and stepped down. The old wooden stairs groaned beneath her weight, each creak echoing like a hammer strike. As she neared the bottom, the sobbing shifted into laughter, a high-pitched scraping laugh like nails on glass, not human. She swept her flashlight across the rec room, past the peeling walls, the old chair, and stopped at the storage room door. It was ajar. Despite the fear, Amy stepped forward, gently pushing the door. It creaked open with a drawn-out, dreadful scream. The room was empty. No one was there. But across the worn wooden floor were scratch marks, like fingernail trails. On the walls, messy writing in what looked like black charcoal read, "I'm still here." "Mommy, I'm cold. Don't leave me." The flashlight began to flicker. Amy turned to run when she heard footsteps chasing her from behind. Not running, more like sliding across the floor. No footfalls, just a strange dragging sound. She screamed and bolted up the stairs. As she burst into the kitchen, she slipped, slamming hard onto the tile. She lay there gasping for breath, eyes blurred with tears of pain and terror. But the sound had stopped, and the cats, now sitting in a perfect line in front of her, were all staring intently at the basement stairs, their fur bristling. Amy didn't sleep at all that night. She called her boyfriend, voice trembling with panic. Kyle drove over and picked her up in under 15 minutes, and together they left the house, abandoning everything behind. She returned only once during daylight, just to feed the cats and clean up hastily before the homeowners came back. After that night, she refused every pet-sitting offer, no matter the pay, even double. That house, despite its polished and quiet appearance, hid something deep within, something not of this world. Those sobs weren't from the cats. They weren't sounds made by anything alive. 2 months later, after Amy had moved in with Kyle, she received a text message from an unknown number. It contained no words, just a 9-second audio clip. It was that same screeching laugh, the exact one she had heard in the basement. She dropped the phone onto the floor, hands trembling uncontrollably, feeling a cold breath sweep across the back of her neck, as if whatever it was still watching her from very, very close. That night, lying beside Kyle, Amy suddenly woke in the middle of the night. A heavy feeling washed over her, like someone was staring at her. She turned her head slowly, and on the other side of the pillow was a small indentation, as if someone or something had just been lying there. No more sobbing, just breathing, steady, rhythmic, from a place where no one should be. Kelsey wasn't the type to get spooked easily. At 17, she was strong-willed and independent, picking up extra work over spring break to save money before heading to college. The job was simple: house sit and care for a dog named Willis for her mom's friend. A quiet home in the suburbs with a spacious backyard, a pool, and a relaxed vibe. That evening, she invited her 2 best friends, Haley and Sammy, to sleep over. The 3 had known each other since high school, now studying in different towns, so the night became a mini reunion. They brought some vodka, snacks, and spent the evening chatting in the glass-walled sunroom overlooking the pool. Willis lay snoozing beneath the table, uninterested in the world. Things started to get strange when the house phone rang. At first, no one paid attention, maybe a wrong number, but the call came again, then again. The shrill ring cut through the quiet, making all 3 girls uneasy. Sammy, the oldest and boldest, picked up. A man's voice crackled through the line, raspy, shaky. "I found the homeowner's wallet at a gas station about 25 minutes away. You need to come, right now." The 3 exchanged glances. The homeowner's wallet, this late at night? It didn't make sense. When Sammy declined, the man grew more insistent, his voice rising in urgency. "You have to come. Now. It's important." When the call ended, no one spoke for several seconds, but a thin fog of unease settled over them. Haley glanced at the back door, the one Willis usually used to go outside, and asked, "Are you sure that door's locked?" Kelsey swallowed hard. She wasn't sure. And just then, she felt it. A strange sensation, like someone was watching them. From just beyond the dark, Willis started growling. The dog had never shown any aggression since Kelsey began house-sitting, but this time, he sprang to his feet, eyes fixed on the glass door leading to the backyard. It was 12:57 a.m., and the only light on was a small lamp by the fireplace, casting an eerie orange hue across the room. "Probably just our imagination," Sammy said, forcing a smile, though her voice trembled. She stepped toward the door to lock it, but just then, a click echoed. The sound of the back door opening. Willis barked furiously and charged toward the kitchen. The 3 girls froze in place. "Someone's in," Haley whispered. She quickly locked the living room door and pulled the curtains shut. Kelsey turned off the light, plunging the house into darkness. Sammy tried calling 911, but there was no signal. The house was in a quiet area with poor reception. She tried again using Wi-Fi. The connection crawled. Meanwhile, Willis went silent. Total silence. No footsteps, no barking, not even breathing. Only Kelsey's pounding heartbeat in her ears. Then, a faint clink from the kitchen, as if something metallic had been dropped. Haley gripped Kelsey's hand. "We need to hide," she said. The 3 of them, with Willis now crouched low, slipped into the master bedroom, locked the door, and pushed a dresser in front of it. They huddled in the dark. Outside, Faint rustling sounds, like someone moving very slowly down the hallway. A drawer opening. The fridge door creaks. Someone was inside. This wasn't in their heads. Willis whimpered. Sammy covered the dog's mouth, afraid he'd make noise. The phone screen lit up, signal restored. She quickly texted for help, just as footsteps stopped right outside the bedroom door. 1 second, 2, 3. The doorknob turned, just slightly. Not enough to open, but enough to make all 3 girls hold their breath. Then, the footsteps retreated. The back door shut. Silence. Police arrived nearly 10 minutes later and searched the house. No one inside. No clear signs of forced entry, except the slightly ajar glass door and muddy, wet footprints smeared across the kitchen floor. No wallet at the gas station. No one knew who made the call. No one knew how the person got in. Kelsey said nothing, just stared at the glass door. She was certain of one thing: they never heard the lock break, which meant the intruder never needed to open it. The police had left, assuring the girls that there were no signs of forced entry and that they would patrol the area throughout the night. But Kelsey, Haley, and Sammy knew something was wrong. Willis never barked without reason, and the footprints on the kitchen floor remained, bare, long, and thin, unlike any of theirs. Sammy still couldn't reach the unknown number from earlier. The landline was completely dead. Kelsey's heart tightened as she recalled the man's voice on the phone, insisting they must come for the wallet immediately. She glanced at the clock, 4:08 a.m. "We need to get out of here," Haley said, clutching the house keys. But as she approached the front door, Willis let out a low growl as if sensing imminent danger. She paused. The backyard motion sensor light had just flickered on. The 3 girls rushed to the living room window. A tall, dark figure stood beyond the fence, motionless, silent, just standing there, watching. The distance was close enough for the faint porch light to reveal a full-face ski mask. "Oh my God, he's back," Kelsey whispered. The figure moved toward the back door. This time, Willis didn't whimper. He growled and lunged at the door, claws scratching fiercely. Sammy screamed, dialing 911 while Haley grabbed a kitchen knife. A knock echoed once, then twice, then silence. Suddenly, the sound of shattering glass, not from the back, but from the living room, the window. The sliding glass door had been broken, and the figure was inside. "Upstairs," Kelsey shouted, pulling the others along. They raced to the second floor, barricading themselves in the master bedroom. Downstairs, Willis howled in pain, then fell silent. Kelsey froze. The air felt heavy. Moments later, footsteps ascended the stairs. Slow, deliberate, breathing, audible through the door. Then a voice, deep, raspy, almost hissing. "Did you get the wallet yet?" None of the girls responded. Haley gripped the knife, hands trembling. Sammy activated the speakerphone. 911 was connected. The breathing ceased. No more footsteps. Only the dispatcher on the line. "Please confirm your address." Then, a man's scream erupted from downstairs, wild and desperate. Sounds of objects crashing, Willis barking again, and finally, police sirens illuminating the front of the house. The intruder vanished without a trace, as if he had never been there. The police thoroughly searched the house. Willis, though bearing a few scratches, had survived. He had escaped the intruder by hiding under the downstairs bed. They found no one, no blood, no trace. But the muddy footprints, stretching from the backyard to the shattered glass door, were undeniable. And that voice, it still echoed in their minds. They left the house before dawn, abandoning everything: vodka, weed, even Kelsey's car. None of them wanted to return. An officer suggested it might have been a local pervert or a drug addict seeking shelter. But deep down, Kelsey knew that man wasn't just some wandering junkie. 3 months later, a new family moved into the neighborhood. They had a daughter, around 8 years old, with blonde hair and gray eyes. One afternoon, while playing in the yard, she found something tangled in the bushes. An old frayed ID card, barely legible. Haley Johnson, Oak Ridge Community College. None of the adults knew who Haley was. But that night, as the little girl slept, her mother entered to tuck her in and found her whispering to a shadow sitting on the windowsill. "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice trembling. "The man by the fence," the girl replied, her eyes wide and vacant. "He said, 'The wallet has been found, and now it's my turn.'" Caitlin had never feared the dark until that night. At 28, she was a veterinary assistant with a deep love for animals and a quiet, introspective nature. Weekend pet-sitting gigs provided her with extra income and a peaceful escape. One Friday evening, she accepted a job to care for 2 unique pets, Casper, an elderly tabby cat, and Ringo, a vibrant macaw who had lived with his owner for over 2 decades. The client, Jeremy, was a courteous, middle-aged man who seemed genuinely affectionate toward his pets. Jeremy meticulously explained the feeding routines and cleaning tasks, emphasizing one particular instruction: "Do not open the master bedroom upstairs. There's nothing important in there." The house was old but well-maintained and tranquil. Occasionally, Ringo would squawk, "Daddy's home," a phrase Jeremy mentioned the parrot had picked up whenever he returned home. Caitlin felt at ease in the house, at least until nightfall. Around midnight, as Caitlin lay in the guest room, she heard a creaking sound from downstairs, like someone stepping on the wooden floor. She assumed it was Ringo moving in his cage and dismissed it, but just as she closed her eyes, Ringo's voice echoed from downstairs. "Daddy's home," he said, in a tone eerily human-like. Caitlin sat up abruptly, her heart pounding. She had seen Jeremy leave the house earlier. There was no way he had returned. Could someone else be in the house? She quietly stepped out of her room and descended the stairs in darkness, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Then Ringo spoke again, this time slower and more ominous. "He's watching you." Caitlin froze on the staircase, the darkness wrapping around her like a shroud. Ringo's last utterance, "He's watching you," didn't resemble a parrot's mimicry. It carried a cadence, an inflection that felt disturbingly human. Deep within her chest, a primal instinct screamed that something was profoundly wrong in this seemingly ordinary house. She flipped on the hallway light. A dim glow spilled down the stairs, casting elongated shadows. Ringo remained perched in his cage, his obsidian eyes tracking her every movement, almost expectantly. Caitlin descended slowly, her gaze sweeping the living room. Everything appeared untouched. She checked the front and back doors, both securely locked. "He's just mimicking Jeremy," she whispered, trying to steady her nerves. But a chilling realization struck her. Jeremy had never said, "He's watching you." How had Ringo learned that phrase? Her phone buzzed. A message from Jeremy, time-stamped at 1:12 a.m. "Ringo might get noisy around midnight. Don't mind him." The timing was eerily precise, aligning almost exactly with Ringo's unsettling declaration. A cold dread settled over her. Jeremy had mentioned he'd be out of cell range during his trip. How had he sent this message? Sleep was out of the question. Caitlin turned on the TV, hoping the noise would drown out her unease. but Ringo began to squawk erratically. No recognizable words, just distorted sounds, hisses, prolonged whistles, and then a series of knocks. Knock, knock, knock. 3 deliberate, rhythmic taps. She muted the TV. The knocking persisted, not from Ringo's cage, but from upstairs, from the master bedroom, the one Jeremy had explicitly told her to avoid. Compelled by a mix of fear and defiance, Caitlin ascended the stairs, each step heavier than the last. She reached the door, its handle cold beneath her trembling hand. "Jeremy, is someone in there?" she called out softly. Silence. Then, from within, a low, raspy chuckle echoed, a sound that mocked her fear, feeding off it. After that strange phone call, Jada tried to dismiss everything as a coincidence. But when the incidents began piling up, lights flickering without cause, an old unplugged radio whispering bizarre voices, and her cat Harlow staring wide-eyed at a blank corner for hours, Jada couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. She went online to search for information about the house. On a small forum for ghost story enthusiasts, she found a thread about a house with the same address. A user with an old, inactive account had posted 3 years ago. "I rented that place for 3 weeks, heard a woman crying at night. There's a small room at the end of the hall that's always locked. Don't try to open it." A chill ran down Jada's spine. That room, yes, it was always locked. The owner had said it was just for storage and not to worry about it. But now, fear-fueled curiosity crept in. One night, after the whispers returned through the radio, this time clearly saying, "Jada, open the door," she broke the rule. With a large safety pin, she tried picking the lock. Her hands trembled as the door creaked open, groaning with age. The room was pitch black, lit only by the hallway light. In the center sat an old armchair, blanketed in dust. Scratch marks covered the walls, like someone had clawed at them, or been trapped inside. Jada stepped in. Harlow followed but stopped at the threshold, growling. As Jada turned to shut the door against a draft, a whisper hissed right next to her ear. Finally open. No longer through the radio. It was real. Director, inches from her ear. The hallway light went out. Total darkness. And then, the crying began. Close. As if someone was standing right behind her. Jada doesn't remember exactly how she got out of that room. When she came to, she was curled up on the hallway floor, just outside the partially open door. Harlow lay beside her, eyes wide, growling toward the room, as if seeing something Jada couldn't. She slammed the door shut, barricaded it with a chair, and packed her things in a panic. Dawn had barely broken, but she couldn't stay another second. While gathering her stuff, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. An old photograph had fallen out from under the sofa, coated in dust. It was a young woman with long hair and sorrowful eyes. Scrawled faintly in ink on the back were the words, "I'm still here. Don't let them lock me away again." A shiver shot down Jada's spine. In the living room mirror, she caught the faint silhouette of someone standing behind her, but when she turned, no one was there. She left the house minutes later, never once looking back. When she called the homeowner to return the keys, a tired voice answered. Jada began explaining, but as soon as she mentioned the room at the end of the hall, the woman fell silent. Then she spoke softly, like she'd heard it all before. "You're not the first, and you definitely won't be the last." The call ended. Jada moved out of town a few weeks later, but every night since, she still heard that faint radio static in her mind. And sometimes, in dreams, that voice returns, whispering, begging her to come back. Because that door, it was never truly closed. You're still here, which means you made it through 3 stories that have kept thousands of people awake at night. The strange noises in the dark, the silent shadows lurking just beyond sight, and the eyes peering from behind closed doors. These aren't just fictional twists. They're real experiences, told by those who've come face to face with terror. This world is vast, and sometimes it's in the most ordinary moments. House sitting for a friend, delivering food late at night, or simply taking care of a pet. That horror creeps in quietly. If you enjoy the spine-chilling thrill of true, haunting tales like these, hit that subscribe button now, turn on the notification bell, and drop a like to help me keep digging into the unsolved and the unexplained.